Have your interactions suffered over the last few months, or have you taken this time to recharge your relationship batteries? Let us know in the comments. Communicating through the medium of technology can add a layer of complexity to our interactions that can make effective communication even harder. Perhaps you have taken this opportunity to step back from your role as the primary communicator to your team and to regroup. Or maybe you long for group interactions to be recharged. Well, God has called both introverts and extroverts to be pastors and church leaders. And I am guessing that whichever one of those groups you consider yourself, COVID has affected you differently. David and Joel discuss some of the different types of hurdles that each group might be going through and relay helpful ways to target blind spots. I hope you enjoy their discussion as much as I did.
So Joel, it's good to be with you today. I think this is the first time you and I have done one of these discussions together, so it's good to be with you. I'm looking forward to it. We were just earlier today on a team call. All of the IBL team were together, and I made the comment then that I wish that we could have had our clients see the dynamic of the IBL team working together. We were talking about our international ministry and what that looks like in the era of COVID. But what I was struck by was the quality of the interaction, the quality of the relationship, laughter, serious conversation, a lot of listening, a lot of building on ideas that each other gave. And it was just a blessing to be a part of it. And we arrived at a destination that I wouldn't have predicted going into the meeting. And we arrived there because of the relationship that we have. And so it was a great thing. It's the kind of thing we want to model for our clients so that they know what healthy teams look like and what healthy interaction looks like. So, and that connects to the topic we want to discuss today. And so the situation I want to put forward for you, Joel, is one where a client would say, you know, I've really enjoyed this season of COVID. It allows me to sit in my office and to interact with people through email, maybe through Zoom, but I don't have to get out there and actually relate to people. I'm more in control of who I relate to and how I relate to it, because I'm a real introvert. And so I love people, but I'm very limited in how much interaction I want to have with people. Is there anything wrong with that? Is that okay that I'm like that? It's the way God made me, after all. And so, Joel, what's your first take on someone who would present that to you?
Well, my first take is anybody in ministry leadership of any stripe or color, whether it be local church ministry or a parachurch ministry, any of us and all of us know what it is to be depleted, to have seasons of being tired, seasons of just, ready for something else by way of pace and ministry. So certainly there's nothing wrong with there being occasions when, it's okay for us to shut down the computer, shut down email, and to unplug. There's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is that when we say yes to ministry, and especially those of us that are in a shepherding capacity, like you can't pastor, and the vast majority of ministry demands person-to-person, one-on-one contact. It's not to say that in the absence of being able to be face-to-face that it's wrong for us to take advantage of Zoom or, texting or email or even phones. But clearly none of that takes the place or is nearly as effective as face-to-face interactions.
Yeah. Now, you're speaking from the perspective of an extrovert. You're an extrovert. I think that's fair to say. I'm coming at it from the standpoint of everything this guy says or this gal says, I resonate with, because I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
And so I love sending emails instead of getting on the phone and talking with people. But the answer is no, that's not okay. It's not okay to hide away and to decline to interact with your people. And I think of this on two levels. I think of it on the level of a shepherd to his sheep, so interacting with the congregation, but I also think of it in terms of a leader interacting with his teammates, those
Yeah.
people who report to him, those people who are part of his team, and he's leading the team. You cannot be a leader and not engage with your people around the issues of life and ministry. It's just not possible to do it. And God did not intend us to be lax in our interaction with other people. I'd like to think about this, Joel, from two perspectives. First is the pragmatic standpoint. There are some very practical reasons why it's important that we engage with other people. And then from a biblical perspective, there's also some good theological reasons for why it is important. So let's think about the pragmatic first. What are some of the things that you would share with a leader in terms of the benefits of rubbing shoulder to shoulder, getting face to face, and having that kind of interaction with other people?
So, in a real sense, when you're in any kind of a ministry structure which demands input and observation and real-time data, real-time perspective on what's happening, you just simply don't have enough eyes in your head, and you can't be everywhere at one time. You work for God, but you're not God. And so, there is tremendous benefit that takes place from the kind of communication that we experienced just a few hours ago, IBL leadership staff meeting. And so one of the practical things is it's not possible for you to even know what's happening in the flow of the organization unless you're having the key conversations with key leaders. So it's impossible for you to be able to know what the status is without having that first level interaction.
Yeah, I think of, when we think about a leader interacting with his team and we think about the different ways that a leader does that, there's four primary styles of leadership. We can engage in a delegation format where we're delegating to people. We can be supporting of people. We can be a coach, or we can be directing. Those are the four primary styles of leadership. But those things involve, in order to use those effectively, I need to know my people. I need to know what they need, because I'm going to choose one style or the other based on the individual that I'm seeking to lead and come alongside and help. And so some people need to be directed, some people need support, some people you can delegate to, but I'm not going to use any of those techniques effectively if I'm not engaged with them enough to know what they need.
Yeah, I think.
Talk to us. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I think the practical is connected to the theological, in the sense that Jesus, theologically, we would say, now in one sense, Jesus is nothing like Moses. Jesus is unique, but there's a sense in which theologically we could say Jesus is the new Abraham, he's the new Adam, he's the new Moses. Certainly between Christ and Moses, there's all kinds of fun biblical exegetical comparisons that we can make. But you think about Moses and the instruction he got from Jethro concerning the wisdom of using multiple judges and counselors and leaders. And then you also think about Jesus and his interaction with, yes, he had the 12, broader than the 12, he had the 70, but then more within the 12, he had the 3. And then he had probably, depending on what part of his earthly ministry, Peter was significant, and then John was significant. And so I think those strategic levels that we see with both Moses and Jesus, I think they give us a clear pattern of wisdom in this kind of a construct. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of building on that idea, I think of the Great Commission. Okay, so if we're in ministry, our work is in pursuance of the Great Commission. We're pursuing the Great Commission. It's done depending on our ministry role. We do that in a different way. I'm not a pastor, so my part of the Great Commission is different than yours as the pastor of a local church, but we all have a role to play in that Great Commission. And part of the Great Commission is discipling others, right?
Yep.
So we're to be discipling other people.
Yeah.
So who do we most disciple? We most disciple the people that we spend the most time with. Who are we spending the most time with? It is the people on our team.
Yeah.
So if I'm the pastor of a church, it's my staff.
Yeah.
And if I've got a large church, it's the senior staff that are around me the most. Those are the individuals that I should be discipling first and foremost. And I really think it's important that as ministry leaders, we eliminate from our thinking the idea that our staff are employees. They're not employees. These are the people that God has put around me to disciple first and foremost, above and beyond anybody else that I'm called to disciple. These are the individuals that I'm called to disciple.
Yeah, I think that's rich. I guess if we were begin to wrap this up, if we end our discussion the way we started it, perhaps what I would encourage my more introverted ministry friends is, hey, it's okay that you're not an extrovert. It's really okay that you're not an extrovert. You are who you are, and God made you more of an introvert. That's great. But I would say, even if you're an introvert, I use the acrostic RUN. I think of the prodigal son, his father. When the prodigal son showed up, you remember the father was quick to jump from the porch and run. And I think that no matter if you're an extrovert or introvert, we need to always be to run. So that's reach out. We're reaching out as often as we can, even if we're limited because of COVID and other logistical challenges. Hey, use technology. There have been a couple of times I've been able to meet leaders at lunch. We've been able to socially distance from each other. You're on one side of the table, I'm on the other, but we've had meaningful face-to-face interaction. And then, so reach out, that's up your commitment to establishing more one-on-one and one-on-group leadership action. And even if you can't do it, release your team, really encourage them to reach out. And then the last one is and that's no. Say no to your urge to hide. I mean, especially those of you that are introverted, being with people drains you, and that's okay. At the end of it, you just have to remember that this idea of one-on-one interaction. I mean, and I know it depletes us. I never forget the amazing story, the gospel story of, remember Jesus ministering to the woman with the issue of blood. When she went to touch Jesus, Jesus said, "Virtue has left me," or departed me. And I think in ministry, that's true. When you're engaged in ministry leadership, when you're touching and you're doing spiritual leadership ministry, there's a sense of drained, but there's no other way to do it. It's not possible for us to be effective in ministry without that one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, well, thanks, Joel. That notion of running, I think, is really great. We need to be running to other people because as the shepherds, our sheep must trust us, and they trust us if they know we love and care for them. That's John 10. They must know that we love them. And if they know that, then they'll trust us. And so we've got to take the time to have that deep relationship. Even us introverts, we have to take the time to do that. No excuses. Well, thanks, Joel. I appreciate this. And I hope for our audience that this has been a blessing to you. Take care.
Joel's RUN acrostic was really eye-opening. I would challenge you to apply those 3 points to your relationships. And if the Holy Spirit used this discussion to prompt you to talk with somebody, IBL is always here to help. you can visit iblministry.org. Also, be sure to like us on Facebook for more resources. I'm your host, Tim Hall, and this is Leadership for Today.